Bowl. Seattle's defense, Abdallah, 6 sacks, 2 interceptions, 11 quarterback hits. The story of the game yesterday.
Yeah, and that's what sealed it for them. You know, we had playoff Drake May show up yesterday, and that Seattle defense proved why they were the best in the NFL throughout the regular season, the least amount of points per game allowed throughout the regular season. That front seven showed up again, and from every single angle, right? It was pressure after pressure after pressure, and poor Will Campbell on the offensive line.
Poor Will Campbell.
I mean, he had a great regular season, and then the playoffs started, and this guy allowed 14 pressures, 15 pressures in yesterday's game alone. And on the brightest stage, under the biggest platform, the brightest lights, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And this guy, no matter how they chipped, no matter how many guys came over to help him, tight ends, running backs, whatever they could do, they could not help Will Campbell to save their lives. And on that left side, it was just a free-for-all, and Drake May was getting hit after pressure after hit after pressure. He was sacked 6 times, turned the ball over 3 different times, and it was just a free-for-all on that left side, and it absolutely affected him every single time, and that defense just dominated. It was a defensive game. It was obviously a low-scoring game. It got a little sweaty there if you had the under towards the end of the game. Some garbage time touchdowns there. It got a little sweaty.
A lot of points in the fourth.
A lot of points there, but the under did hit if you had that total, if you were playing that. But yeah, the Seattle defense, just the story of their season. Obviously, Mike McDonald, defensive-minded head coach, proved defense, at least this year, defense wins championships. And that defense, Sam Darnold can, take the chip off of his shoulder, and he can have that full circle moment for him. And the bet on yourself and go from seeing ghosts with the Jets and have that game against the Patriots where he was just completely rattled and the camera caught him saying, I'm seeing ghosts out there, and being on his 5th different team in 8 years, and just going through all of that emotionally for him and going from the Vikings last year to the Seahawks this year and betting on himself. And I know he didn't have a great game, and now he's a Super Bowl champion and he can hold that over anybody that ever doubted him, but it was the defense that won the game for the Seahawks yesterday going away.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Sam Darnold aspect is certainly a storyline we will talk about here on the show today. But let's not act like Sam Darnold did something last night that will prop him up higher than what we thought he was.
No.
Seattle can win when he doesn't turn the football over. He didn't turn the football over last night, and Seattle won the game. I think it's that simple because you look at the stat line, 19 for 38, 202 yards, 1 touchdown. He only was sacked once. I mean, Sam Darnold didn't do anything that was special last night. Mm-hmm. Seattle's defense is the reason they won this game. Kenneth Walker running the football like he did last night with the 27 carries for 135 yards. That's why they're the Super Bowl champions today. And it's definitely a situation where you and I looked at it, and we were in San Francisco last week covering Radio Row and talking to all the former players. Almost every single former player we talked to last week told us that Seattle was going to win this game, win this game big. Very few told us that it was going to be close. And there was one, I think it was Chad Brown, was the only one that told us that the Patriots were going to win. Yeah. Every other former athlete that we talked to was taking Seattle. The players knew that this was a mismatch. And you and I also talked about it going into the week, is that based on stats, Seattle was kind of set up for, could this be a historic run to the Super Bowl? And until it happens, it's tough to put a historical context on something that's taking place in real time. But what we do know now, looking back on it, is all of the advanced metrics throughout the season into the playoffs and heading to the Super Bowl, they were all right. Seattle was by far the best team this season, and they are in the conversation of having one of the best seasons we've ever seen in the National Football League, even though it's not flashy, right? There was no song and dance number from Seattle midway through the season predicting a Super Bowl, right? Like there's no catchy nickname. I know the dark side defense was something that has now caught wave here in the last 24 hours, right? Yeah. Like if you're in Seattle, you're like, that's what they call it. But like it seems like Tirico really leaned in heavy to that as the game went on and as it was very obvious after the second quarter that Seattle was going to win this football game.
Yes.
But, like, to me, there's nothing that stands out except for just a good football team. Like, there's not something that we would have known back in the summer to say this is a team that's going to go on a historic Super Bowl run. Pretty unique, pretty cool. And I think that's what separates the NFL from every other sport is like, really, you can win a championship for almost anywhere. And I think that's what my takeaway is with Super Bowl 60 last night.
And I think they knew something when they obviously signed Sam Darnold, and they knew that they had something in him with this historic defense. And we did talk about it when we were previewing this game last week, that when you have a guy like Sam Darnold, you're allowed to take risks when you have this kind of defense. When you have this kind, and we saw him, and Chris Collinsworth was talking about it on the game yesterday. I wouldn't have thrown that towards the end of the game when they were trying to put the game away. I wouldn't have thrown that to that outside route at the end of the game because the only thing that'll kill you there is a pick six. But guess what? When you have this kind of defense, you can do that because they can save you. The game was out of reach, but they're willing to take risks because they have this kind of defense. Sam Darnold can throw into traffic multiple times and risk turnovers because he has this kind of defense and because the Patriots, for 3 quarters, didn't look like they were going to score. Like, there was a certain point in the game where they were bringing up, well, no team's ever been shut out in the Super Bowl before, and we're kind of heading in that direction where we need to talk about how this could be a historic night where no team has ever been shut out, and this might be the first team that gets shut out in a Super Bowl ever. Now, eventually, the Patriots did go on to score a few times, but it didn't look good for them for a while. And for a while, it didn't look like we were going to get a touchdown at all in this game because both defenses were playing really well and both quarterbacks were really struggling to move the ball down the field. It was really driven by Kenneth Walker in the running game, and that was even struggling to get going for a while. But, you don't go away from the run. You don't go away from what got you there. And for Seattle, it was the running game. For, the Patriots, it was Drake May in this passing game, and they kept on trying to move the ball down the field that way, and it bit them a few times because Drake May threw those 2 interceptions. He had the fumble, and he kept on taking sacks. And it's something that we talked about throughout the postseason. He took 15 sacks, 5 per game, leading into the Super Bowl. And in this game, he was sacked 6 times and pressured 1,000 times. Almost every drop back, the dude was feeling pressure.
Yeah.
Because of that left side and Will Campbell. And this Seahawks defense was relentless. And they normally don't blitz. And in that first quarter, almost through the entire first half, they were bringing everybody.
They were going.
And normally that leaves guys open in one-on-one coverage in the backfield. And Sam Darnold, Drake May just couldn't find them because of the relentless pressure that Mike Macdonald just felt like bringing, and he was going to rattle Drake May early and often, and it worked because they were getting after him. And whatever it was, whether it was the injured shoulder or just the fact that, I get it, his shoulder is probably injured, and he said that he got a shot before the game.
It's not probably, it is.
It is. However,
well, I mean,
Chris,
isn't that? I mean, you take that many sacks, that's why you're going to be injured. Heading into a game like that.
However,
he
was sacked 5 times a game leading into this game.
Most sacks in postseason history.
He was sacked 6 times in this game.
Most turnovers, tied for the most turnovers in postseason history.
I saw what I've seen throughout the entire postseason with Drake May just continue in the Super Bowl. So he can be injured. But Seattle did exactly what I told you what they would do last week. Exactly what I told you.
Yeah.
I told you they would get to him. I told you they would sack him. And I told you that he would turn the ball over. Because that's what Drake May has been doing in the playoffs. He had an MVP-like season in the regular season. But for some reason in the playoffs, whether it was Will Campbell and the protection breaking down or him just feeling like he needs to go out there and make every single play possible and holding on the ball for too long, or just playing these great defenses in the Broncos and the Texans and now the Seahawks, it just didn't work out for him. And he was sacked 21 times in the postseason and turned the ball over a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, for the Patriots offense, they get to the Super Bowl by scoring 16 points against the Chargers, 28 points against the Texans, and then 10 points against Denver. So it wasn't as if, and we knew this going into the game, that Drake May has struggled here in the playoffs, and this offense has struggled. And it was clear from the start yesterday, first quarter, that the Patriots offense was going to have a really difficult day, and that's where Seattle was just teeing off. I mean, Witherspoon finding his way on blitzes to get through and to hit multiple times Drake May really was a part of the game-changing aspect from the Seahawks. They had zero respect from Drake May going over the top. Now, he did connect late. Hollis got a touchdown, and there were a couple nice throws late fourth quarter as the Patriots were starting to become desperate as they were down big. But essentially, Seattle's defense was suffocating. And just the ability to have that pressure, 11 quarterback hits, made such a difference in this game. And I think that's where, if you want to talk football today with Black and Abdallah, you can call us at 310-840-4910. That's where I look at this conversation. And looking at what Seattle was able to do, it didn't really ask a lot from the offense. And this isn't meant as a knock, but with Jackson Smith and Jigba missing most of the game with the concussion protocol, and then he had the leg situation, like a heel injury that he came out for some time during the game. Like, without the separation from Jackson Smith and Jigba in the secondary, like, Seattle's offense really didn't do a heck of a lot either. But they did enough, and they stuck to the run, and those wide run game handoffs, those attacking the zone towards the sideline, and they eventually, after enough of them, it started to work and it started to pile up. Walker kept gaining yardage. Cooper Kupp made some nice catches when Smith and Jigba was out of the game. And I thought Darnold played a smart game. Did he throw a couple passes that could have been picked off? Sure. I mean, Gonzalez had a hell of a game.
Yeah.
This was an absolute blowout. If there weren't three separate situations where Gonzalez got his hands on a ball that would have been for a big game or a touchdown. So I think Darnold played a decent game, but he didn't have to do anything more than that. And I think, like, that's not to say that's a knock on Sam Darnold, but really that just it proves how good the Seattle team is overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned Christian Gonzalez there. We talked about it last week, too. Like, this New England Patriots defense wasn't bad. They were great. There wasn't much separation between the Seahawks defense and the Patriots defense. Like, they're both top 10, Seahawks being number 1, and the Patriots were still in the top 10. Like, these weren't like a huge mismatch of defenses. They were going to make life difficult for Sam Darnold. It was just a huge mismatch between the Seahawks defense and the Patriots offense and what they weren't going to be able to do. And when you have a quarterback like Drake May that takes a lot of sacks that we've seen throughout the regular season, 48 during the regular season and 15 leading into this game in the playoffs, you knew that they were going to make life hell for him in this game, and that's exactly what they did. And early on, too, Mike McDonald wasn't messing around in the first quarter. In the first quarter, They were going to get to him, and they were going to blitz the crap out of him, and that's exactly what they did.
It's Black and Abdallah here on Westwood One Sports and the Westwood One Sports app.